Your cart has 6 items you didn't plan to buy. You're scrolling at 11 p.m., adding things you don't need with money you don't have, and you can't explain why you're doing it. The rational part of your brain is screaming at you to close the tab, but your finger keeps hitting add to cart like it's controlled by someone else. You know you shouldn't. The credit card bill from last month is still sitting on your desk. But right now, in this moment, buying this thing feels like the only decision you get to make today. And somehow that makes it impossible to stop. You're not shopping because you need these things. You're shopping because everything else in your life feels like it's spiraling, and this one small purchase feels like something you can control. If spending money is supposed to make you feel better, why does the guilt hit before the package even arrives? If you know it won't fix anything, why does your brain treat it like a solution? The truth is, you're not financially irresponsible. You're not materialistic. You're not weak-willed. You're experiencing what researchers call doom spending, a stress response that hijacks your brain's decision-making system and turns shopping into a coping mechanism for feelings you can't control. And what most people don't realize, the same mechanism that makes you doom scroll is the exact same one that makes you doom spend. Your brain is trying to protect you. It's just using a strategy that makes everything worse. But here's what changes everything once you understand this. Doom spending isn't a character flaw. It's a predictable response to chronic uncertainty. And the same brain circuits that drive it can be rewired to serve you instead of sabotage you. But here's what you need to know, and what changes everything once you see it clearly. Your brain's threat detection system does something to your decision-making under stress, but it can also be the key to breaking the cycle entirely. And today, that's exactly what we're going to understand. So here's how we'll do it, step by step, starting with one awareness that takes 10 seconds. We're going to break down the 4 hidden patterns that turn normal shopping into compulsive buying when life feels unstable. Then we'll look at what neuroscientists at USC and psychologists at Stanford have discovered about how chronic uncertainty literally changes your brain's reward system. And finally, I'm going to give you 6 practical strategies, research-backed, actually usable, that interrupt the doom spending cycle before it starts. These aren't tips about making budgets or cutting up credit cards. This is about understanding the mechanism underneath the behavior. Because once you see what's actually driving it, you can't unsee it. And that awareness alone changes how you respond. By the end, you'll understand why this keeps happening, what your brain is actually trying to do, and how to give it what it needs without destroying your financial stability in the process. Think of your brain's decision-making system like a self-driving car. Under normal conditions, it calculates risk, weighs options, considers long-term consequences. But when the road conditions get bad enough, when uncertainty becomes chronic, the autopilot system takes over. And autopilot doesn't care about your long-term goals. It only cares about immediate relief. But how do we know this isn't just about poor impulse control or lack of financial literacy? Because in 2023, researchers started tracking something they'd never seen before, a massive surge in impulsive spending that correlated directly with feelings of helplessness about the future. And what they discovered explains exactly why your cart fills up when life feels out of control. Dr. Sean Harper, a consumer behavior researcher at USC Marshall School of Business, coined the term doom spending in 2024 after tracking spending patterns during periods of collective uncertainty. What he found was striking. People weren't just spending more, they were spending specifically when they felt powerless over larger life circumstances. The purchases weren't about the items, they were about reclaiming a sense of agency. Then, neuroscientist Dr. Anna Lembke at Stanford Medical School discovered something that explains why this happens. In her research on dopamine and reward systems, she found that when people experience prolonged stress and uncertainty, their brains become hypersensitive to immediate rewards and desensitized to long-term consequences. The same mechanism that makes you doom scroll for hours is the exact mechanism that makes a small purchase feel like the most important decision you'll make all day. And here's what makes this particularly powerful. Dr. Brad Klontz, a financial psychologist at Creighton University, found that financial stress creates a feedback loop where spending provides temporary relief, which reinforces the behavior, which creates more financial stress. Your brain learns that spending equals control, and once it learns that pattern, it fires automatically every time uncertainty spikes. This is what you've been experiencing, not a personal failing, a predictable neurological response to chronic instability. Your brain has been trying to solve a problem you didn't even know you had. It's been giving you small moments of control in a life that feels increasingly uncontrollable. This is what doom spending actually is. You can see this pattern in your own life. This is the illusion of control at work. You've felt this. You're scrolling through your phone at midnight. Work is overwhelming. Your rent is increasing. The news cycle is an endless stream of things you can't affect. Climate anxiety sits in the back of your mind. Political instability feels constant. And your life, your actual daily life, feels like it's happening to you instead of being shaped by you. And then you see it. The thing, the gadget, the skincare product, the home organization system that promises to fix the chaos. And for just a moment, you have a choice. Buy it or don't. That's something you control, so you buy it. Not because you need it, because deciding to buy it makes you feel like you still make decisions that matter. Then there's the immediate dopamine hit versus long-term dread. Here's how it shows up. The moment you click purchase, something shifts in your brain. Relief floods in. Dr. Lemke's research explains why. Your brain releases dopamine not when you receive the item, but when you anticipate receiving it. The purchase itself, the act of buying, becomes the reward. The item is almost irrelevant. But here's what your brain conveniently forgets in that moment. The credit card bill, the storage problem, the guilt that arrives before the package does. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that thinks about future consequences, gets overridden by your limbic system screaming for relief right now. And right now always wins when you're chronically stressed. But the illusion of control feeds into something even more subtle. The substitution of small control for actual agency. You know, deep down, that buying a $47 candle won't solve the housing crisis, fix your job situation, or resolve the relationship tension that's been building for months. You know this, but your brain has learned to accept the small win, the tiny moment where you exercised choice, as a substitute for the larger control you actually need. Dr. Harper's research found that people experiencing financial anxiety were 40% more likely to make impulsive purchases during periods of political or social instability. Not because they wanted those items more, because the act of purchasing provided temporary psychological relief from feelings of powerlessness. And here's the pattern most people never notice: the escalation cycle. It starts small, a few impulse purchases here and there, maybe $20, $30, easy to justify. But doom spending, like any coping mechanism, requires increasing doses to produce the same effect. Your brain adapts. What used to give you that relief for a day now lasts an hour, so you buy more. And the amounts increase. And suddenly, you're making purchases that would have horrified you 6 months ago. But in the moment, they feel absolutely necessary. Dr. Klontz describes this as financial tolerance, the same mechanism that drives addiction. Your reward system recalibrates. The threshold for feeling in control gets higher, and the behavior that was supposed to reduce stress becomes a primary source of it. This isn't weakness. This isn't poor financial literacy. Your brain is doing exactly what it evolved to do when it detects chronic threat: seek immediate relief, prioritize short-term survival, and grab any sense of control it can find. But why does shopping, of all things, become the go-to response? Because your brain evolved in a world where immediate action usually solved immediate problems. Find food, build shelter, remove the threat. But modern threats, economic instability, systemic uncertainty, existential dread about the future, can't be solved with action. They're chronic, ambient, and largely outside your control, so your brain does the next best thing. It finds something, anything you can control. And in a consumer economy, that something is usually shopping. Here's what's happening in your brain every time you doom spend. First, there's the evolutionary mechanism. Your brain was designed for a world of immediate, concrete threats. See predator. Run from predator. Problem solved. But modern life doesn't work that way. The threats you face now, financial instability, climate anxiety, political chaos, are chronic, abstract, and impossible to escape. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that detects danger, can't tell the difference between tiger chasing you and student loan debt you'll carry for decades. Both register as threat. Both trigger the same response. Do something, take action, regain control. But you can't run from rent increases. You can't fight climate change with your fists. So your brain finds the nearest thing that feels like control. And in a world where nearly everything can be purchased with one click, shopping becomes the action that soothes the alarm. Then there's the neurological mechanism. What happens inside your skull when stress becomes chronic? Dr. Lemke's research on dopamine helps explain this. Your brain's reward system has two settings: tonic, baseline, and phasic, spike. Under normal conditions, you maintain a healthy baseline and get occasional spikes from genuinely rewarding experiences. But chronic stress depletes your dopamine baseline. Your brain starts operating in a deficit. And when you're in dopamine deficit, your brain becomes hypersensitive to anything that promises a spike, no matter how small, no matter how temporary. Shopping provides that spike, the anticipation, the purchase, the tracking notification, each tiny hit of dopamine. But here's the trap. The more you rely on these small spikes, the more your baseline drops. You're not refilling the tank, you're just preventing it from going completely empty. And eventually the spikes get smaller while the need for them gets bigger. And finally, there's the social and economic mechanism, how the system itself amplifies your biology. You live in an economy specifically designed to exploit your brain's vulnerability to immediate reward. One-click purchasing, same-day delivery, personalized algorithms that show you exactly what your stressed brain wants to see. Credit systems that separate the pain of paying from the pleasure of buying. And social media that constantly shows you what you're missing, what you should have, what might make you feel better. Researchers at the Max Planck Institute for Human Development found that exposure to targeted advertising during periods of stress increased impulsive purchasing by 63%. Not because people wanted those products more, because their brains, already depleted and scanning for relief, were being offered exactly what they were biologically primed to grab. This is what you've been up against. An evolutionary system designed for immediate threats, a neurological system depleted by chronic stress, and an economic system engineered to convert both into profit. This is what you've been up against. A brain trying to solve an impossible problem with the only tools it has. But the moment you realize what's actually happening, the moment you see the mechanism instead of just experiencing the urge, something shifts. Understanding doesn't make the urge disappear, but it gives you a gap, a space between impulse and action. And in that gap, freedom lives. The goal isn't to never feel the urge to doomspend. The goal is to recognize it when it arrives, understand what it's actually asking for, and give your brain what it needs through strategies that don't destroy your financial future. Here's how. Start with the simplest practice, the 10-second awareness check. The moment you feel the urge to buy something unplanned, pause for exactly 10 seconds. Not to stop yourself, just to notice. Ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Dr. Judson Brewer, a psychiatrist at Brown University who studies habit formation, found that simply naming the emotion underneath a compulsive behavior reduces the urgency by up to 40%. You're not trying to change the feeling, you're just seeing it clearly. I feel powerless about my job situation, and buying this feels like control. That's it. 10 seconds of honest recognition. Sometimes that's enough to break the automaticity. Once you've tried that, here's what to add. Create a doom spending early warning system. Dr. Clonce's research found that most people have 3 to 4 specific emotional triggers that precede doom spending episodes. Yours might be checking the news and feeling helpless, or a difficult conversation with your boss, or scrolling social media and seeing everyone else's seemingly perfect lives. Identify your triggers, write them down, and when they appear, recognize them as the warning light they are, not a judgment, just information. This is the feeling that usually leads to buying things I don't need. It's here, I see it. Here's a technique that works even in the hardest moments: the dopamine substitution strategy. Your brain is seeking relief. It needs that spike, but shopping isn't the only way to get it. Dr. Lemke recommends activities that provide genuine reward without financial cost. Calling a friend, taking a 10-minute walk outside, doing 20 jumping jacks, listening to a favourite song. These aren't distractions. They're alternative sources of the same neurochemical your brain is craving. Research from Stanford found that just 10 minutes of moderate physical movement can provide a dopamine spike comparable to a small purchase, without the guilt, without the cost, without the clutter. Another powerful practice is implementing the 24-hour rule with documentation. Here's how it works. When you want to buy something unplanned, screenshot it. Save it to a list. Write down what you want to buy, how much it costs, and, most importantly, what you're feeling right now and what you hope buying this will solve. Then wait 24 hours. Research from the Journal of Consumer Psychology found that 72% of purchases delayed by 24 hours are never completed. Not because people forgot, because the emotional urgency faded. The problem the purchase was supposed to solve either resolved itself or revealed itself as something shopping couldn't fix. And when you read what you wrote 24 hours later, you see your own pattern. Here's what to practice when you catch yourself mid-spiral: the control audit. Dr. Harper recommends this when you're feeling powerless. Make a list, right now, in this moment, of 5 things you actually control today. Not big things, small things. Whether you drink water, whether you go for a walk, whether you text someone you care about, whether you do 10 minutes of stretching, what time you go to bed. The goal isn't to minimize your real problems. It's to remind your brain that you do have agency, just not in the ways shopping pretends to offer. And often, exercising control in these small, genuine ways satisfies the need that shopping was trying to meet. Try this when the urge feels overwhelming: the cost per relief calculation. Before buying, do this math. Take the price. Estimate how long the relief will actually last. Usually it's hours, maybe a day. Calculate the cost per hour of feeling better. That $60 item that will make you feel in control for maybe 6 hours? That's $10 per hour of relief. Now ask yourself, is there anything else that could provide that relief more effectively? Usually the answer is yes. This isn't about judging yourself. It's about seeing what the purchase actually offers versus what your brain promises it will offer. And here's the practice that creates lasting change: building what Dr. Lemke calls dopamine scaffolding. Your brain needs sustainable sources of reward and meaning. These come from connection, purpose, physical movement, creative expression, and genuine rest. The reason doom spending keeps happening is because these deeper sources are depleted. So the work isn't just about stopping the spending, It's about rebuilding the foundation. 15 minutes of social connection, 20 minutes of movement, 10 minutes of creating something. These aren't self-care, they're neuroscience. They're how you restore your dopamine baseline so you're not constantly seeking emergency spikes through your credit card. Finally, practice the financial embodiment check. Before purchasing, physically feel your body. Place your hand on your chest. Notice your breathing. Research from Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's work on trauma and the body found that reconnecting with physical sensation interrupts the dissociative state that often accompanies compulsive behavior. Doom spending frequently happens in a fog. You're not fully present. You're not fully in your body. You're operating on autopilot. The physical check brings you back. I'm here, I'm in my body, I'm making a choice. Sometimes that presence is enough to shift the decision. The goal isn't to never spend money. It's not to eliminate all pleasure from purchasing. The goal is to recognize when you're trying to buy control over things money can't actually control. When you catch yourself reaching for your credit card to soothe feelings that need something else entirely, that awareness is the shift. And that awareness, practiced consistently, gives you freedom that shopping never could. Look, we're all doing the best we can with what we have. And what we have right now is a world that feels increasingly out of control, a brain designed for different problems, and an economy engineered to profit from both. If you've been doom spending, you're not broken. You're responding exactly as your biology was designed to respond to chronic threat. Seek relief, grab control where you can find it, survive the moment. The work isn't about becoming someone who never feels those urges. The work is about seeing them clearly enough to choose differently. I'm curious, what's your most common doom spending trigger? The news cycle, work stress, social media comparison, something else? Drop it in the comments. And if you've found a strategy that actually works for interrupting the pattern, share that too. Your experience might be exactly what someone else needs to hear right now. If this resonated with you, share it with someone who might be struggling with this too. Not as judgment, as recognition. Sometimes just knowing you're not the only one changes everything. And if you want more content that helps you understand your brain instead of fighting it, subscribe. We're building something different here. Psychology that's actually useful for real life. Try one technique this week. Just one. The 10-second awareness check. The trigger identification. The control audit. Pick whichever feels most doable. What would change if doom spending wasn't your only option when life feels uncontrollable? What would it feel like to recognize the urge, understand it, and choose a response that actually serves you? What if you could give your brain the control it's seeking, but through strategies that build your life instead of depleting it? You're not shopping your way to stability. You're seeking agency in a world that often denies it. And the moment you see that clearly, you can find it somewhere real.